Thank you, Audrey. Thank you, Rusty. Past President Hal Stevenson is going to offer our invocation.
Please pray with me. Heavenly Father, we gather again in really almost what we thought was a fall to begin, but we're getting back to the heat, so we appreciate that a lot. But God, we are so thankful to be in Columbia, to be a part of this club, to have such great weather really to complain about. And Lord, as we contemplate our weeks, our year this year, as we think about new school days and things for our kids or grandkids or even ourselves, Lord, would we remember our commitment to the community and what Rotary stands for, to live by the four-way test, whatever our religion, that we would have an ethic that would pervade all that we do in the community. And so we ask for that wisdom to do so in the right, appropriate way. Now please bless the meeting today and the food we're eating now, Lord. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Hal. Blake Buchanan is on his way up to introduce our visiting Rotarians and guests. While he's on the way, I'll just remind everybody about your cart buckets sitting on your tables. Please give generously to the cart fund.
Thank you, President Stephen. All right, welcome everybody. Today we have two visiting Rotarians. We have Jeff Keller, and he is from the Oconee County Club, which is on the Georgia side of Oconee County, near Athens, correct? Welcome, Jeff. We also have Murray Coleman from Main Street Club. Murray? Thank you very much. And if you have a guest with you today, would you please stand and introduce your guest? Looks like Carrie is going to pass the mic down.
I'm Carrie Powers, and today I have with me, I have Scott Downs. He is a financial advisor with Northwestern Mutual. I also have Kim Mitchell with me today from Castle Brothers Heating and Cooling. And I have Mr. John Carrick, who is here with his lovely wife, Councilwoman-elect Beth Carrick.
I'm Jerry Bright. This morning I have with me Debbie Yoho, former member beloved by all, and Brett Smith, a fellow enthusiast of traditional jazz.
And I have with me Cheryl Swanson. Cheryl is Vice President of our Convention Center.
Good afternoon, I'm David Reneker, and I have with me Shelley Clark. Shelley is a branch manager with Prescott in West Columbia.
I'm Jerry Pate, and he's not a guest, but I want to point out Max Stone, the former director of the Columbia Convention Center, created that and did an outstanding job, and he is retired. And Matt, I'm going to give you the microphone. He's part of our back table bunch that ate here for years and years.
Thanks, Jerry. Appreciate it. Real quick, a number of people have asked me about my wife, and let me bring you up to date. A year and a half ago, she was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and we about 2.5 months ago, she finally got her MRI that says it is in total remission. So, we'll continue to watch it with MRIs, of course, until, well, probably forever. But that's good news, and that's the best we can hope for at this point in time. But thank you for your prayers and good thoughts. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Mac, and very good news about Amy. I am Matt Kennel, and I'm delighted to introduce to you Rita Patel. Rita is the owner of the new Hotel Trundle downtown across from Baptist Hospital. Wonderful boutique hotel, and I'm just so grateful to have her here as my guest today. Rita.
Hi, I'm up, Long Island. It's a pleasure for me to introduce you all to these lovely ladies sitting here in the middle table. I will start with the first. Would you stand, Elizabeth? This is Elizabeth Trulock. Elizabeth moved to Columbia in October. Her husband is with South Trust Miners, and Elizabeth is a pharmaceutical salesperson here in Columbia. We're delighted to have her. Next, I'd like you all to welcome a dear, dear, dear friend, a new friend, the new kid on the block, the mother of our guest speaker, Carrie Hampton. This is Carrie. Carrie is from Kansas City and has recently established a second home at North Litchfield. Betsy, right down the street from the Keyhole. Welcome, Carrie. My next guest is Judy Smith. And many of you know Judy from Palmetto Richland. She was the head honcho over there for public relations for many years, and I met her 35 years ago when I was called in as a volunteer to help start Children's Hospital. And so we are dear friends, and now that we're both kind of retired, we can hang out together and we have a great time and a great friendship. Welcome, Judy. And next is my clone, which is Betsy Powell. You all know Elliot, a member of the club. Elliot's in Europe getting their youngest son from Walford adapted to his semester abroad, and he'll be home tomorrow. Betsy is a dear, dear friend, and she is office manager, accountant for an insurance company. Welcome, Betsy. We're delighted to have you. And Wes, of course, is not a guest, and he's sitting there, and I'll tell you later why.
Thank you. I'm Robert Weston. I have as a guest today Daniel Andreu. Daniel is in business development with Doctors Care, which is owned by Blue Cross.
That's right.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody, and I hope to see all of you again here in the future. That's a great group of guests, so thank y'all very much, and have a great day.
Thank you, Blake, and it is great to have so many guests here today. We've got a very special announcement coming to the podium right now. Debbie McDonald is here, and I won't steal her thunder.
Okay, can y'all hear me? Hi. I'm Debbie McDonald, as most of you know. One of the things that I have admired about Rotary as far as administrative is how far they plan ahead. As we know, we have our current president and our president-elect already set up. In the same spirit of that, I would like to announce that October of 2019, I will be retiring. So there's plenty of time to get everything together.
That's a big announcement for our club. As all of you know, Debbie, she makes things work for us. We've got about 13 months to plan for her succession, and so I promise you I didn't have anything to do with it. But we'll, with this much time, this much leeway, we'll be sure to do a good job. We've got Bob Borum here to give our health and happiness today.
I was informed that Al Walker, who is a former member of this club, was named as Philanthropist of the Year by the National Speakers Association. We congratulate Al. And somebody told me that JT is returning from California tomorrow. Is that correct? Okay, well, we hold JT continuing our thoughts and prayers. This police car pulls up to this house, and the officer goes out of his car to the house and comes running back to the car and gets on his radio and says, "Chief, we got a bad situation here." Chief said, "What is it?" He said, "This woman just shot her husband." And, "Oh my goodness," said, "What for?" I said, "Well, she had just mopped the kitchen floor, And he comes in from outside and walks across the floor while it's still wet and she's shining. He said, oh no. Said, have you arrested her? He said, well, no. He said, well, get in there and arrest her. He says, the hell no, the floor isn't dry yet. I know preachers are called upon for a lot of things. This young preacher just came into this new rural town. Funeral director called him up and said, got something for you. He said, old Linton Fletcher died, and I know you don't know the family, you haven't been here very long, but the family wants you to conduct the funeral. So it's going to be real simple. Families moved away, they'll be there. It'll be tomorrow at 12 o'clock, and he said, well, where is he? He said, well, it's going to be really simple. He said, you know, nobody from the funeral home is going to be there, and there won't be a casket out there. You know, they've already put it in the vault. And it's very simple. You just got to go out. And he said, well, where is it? He said, well, you take Route 47 out of town, and you go about 5 miles, maybe 7, maybe, well, somewhere in there. You go out there and you turn right on this little paved road, and down that paved road, there's going to be a little white church, and out back is where the funeral is going to take place. Very simple, you know, you just go there, no casket, everything will be ready in the vault. So he rides out of town the next day, and he goes out about what he thought was the right distance. He turns right on this little paved road. He goes out and sees this little white church sitting out there on the right. And sure enough, behind the little white church, there's a backhoe. 3 guys sitting on the backhoe. The hole's been dug. Big, great concrete box there by the hole. He says, well, this is it. He parks his car. It's 12 noon, gets to be 12:15, gets to be 12:30, nobody showed up. And so he says to himself, I don't know how long I'm going to sit here. You know, out of respect for the deceased, I need to go ahead and do something. And so he gets out of his car, goes over to where everything has been prepared, looks over at the guys on the backhoe, and he says to them, now, guys, take off your hats. And they look at him, they took off the hats. And he goes through the whole funeral service. He reads the scripture, he does 23rd Psalm, he prays the Lord's Prayer, he sings an a cappella verse of Amazing Grace, and then he takes some dirt and he scatters it around, and then he pronounces a benediction in which he says, Lord, bless these remains as they enter the sacred earth. And he drives off. And one of the guys standing beside the backhoe says, that's strange, isn't it? That's strange. You ever seen anything strange like that? The guy on the backhoe said, no, said, I've been putting in these septic tanks for 20 years. And that's the damnedest thing I've ever seen in my life. Well, some time ago, a letter to the editor appeared in the New York Times. The name was withheld by request. I want to share this with you. And here's what he wrote. He wrote, first, I was dying to finish high school and start college. Then I was just dying to finish college and start to work. And I was just dying to get married and have a family. Then I was just dying for my children to grow up and be old enough to go out on their own. Then I was just dying to retire. And he said, now I am dying. And suddenly I realized I forgot to live. Don't let this happen to you, he wrote. Appreciate each day and enjoy each current moment. Because remember, life is not measured by the number of breaths that you take, but by the number of moments that take your breath away. That's it.
Thank you, Bob. I think you always do the best job of health and happiness, and I appreciate you leading that committee this year to make sure we have somebody here every week to give our health and happiness. We've got an induction today, 2 new members joining the club, and I'm going to hand things over to our past president, Michael Kahn, to be the MC for that.
Thank you, and I'd like to invite forward these 2 guests of our club today and their sponsors,
David Reneker with Jimmy Derrick, and Beth Carrick with Carrie Powers. And if y'all would turn and face the club, this is an interesting pair. I want you to remember their names and help welcome them to our club. David here, who says he would answer to Dave, really prefers his given name, David. So please call him David to avoid getting beat up. David was brought into our club by Jimmy Derrick. Married to the former Paula Wells, whose dad was a coach at Hand Junior High back in my day. David and Paula are parents to 2 teenagers, Corey and Julie Reneker, and they all enjoy their domestic tranquility at 136 Tanner's Mill Road in the Chapin area. Coming to the Midlands from a banking background in Hilton Head, David is currently VP for commercial lending at Crestcom Bank, which is the former Congaree Bank startup. David's office being located on Knox Abbott Drive in Casey. David has used his financial skills in a number of volunteer community activities. United Way, he's been church treasurer, he's Methodist, and Boys and Girls Club. For fun, David likes to golf, and he reads, especially historical fiction, and he spends time with his family. Please welcome David Reneker. And Beth Carrick. Unlike David, Beth does not go by Liza, Lizzie, Elizabeth, or any such long moniker. She likes the brevity of Beth for her name, and we're grateful for Carrie Powers introducing her to Columbia Rotary. You may have seen Beth Carrick's name on real estate or political signs as she's active professionally and personally in the community. And what community is that, you might ask? Because she can be from about anywhere she likes. Beth's mailing address, for example, is 349 Old Wood Drive, Columbia, as it says on the label, but she's actually in Irmo, and she's in that part of town that's actually in Lexington County, hence her election to council. So, it's safe to say that Beth's community is, well, America. Married to Lexington lawyer John Carrick, she's the mother of 3, and she now has her first grand. And, get this, she has the remarkable distinction of being herself the youngest of 7 children. And you will, interestingly enough, I think, hear more about this in a couple of weeks at another induction. Beth is resurrecting her golf game these days, and she too enjoys reading, especially the James Patterson series, Women's Murder Club. I'm not making this up. She just finished number 17 in the series. Beth has been very active in the Clerks of Court Association. She was president of the South Carolina chapter of the National Safety Council. She's been a leader in the Chamber of Commerce and a number of women's groups in the Midlands, such as Lexington Medical Center Foundation's Women of Hope, the National Federation of Republican Women, and the like. But most prominent in Beth's resume is that she is a cover girl. Yes, she was the feature of the 2006 issue of the Lake Murray Columbia. And we're hoping now that Beth will make waves in the Rotarian magazine. Please welcome Beth Carrick. And if y'all would face me for a second, after you get pinned, I want to welcome you officially to our Rotary Club and Rotary International. 1.2 is the number to remember, as in 1.2 million, your new friends and playmates in Rotary. It's an awesome organization that's dedicated to peace, understanding, and humanitarian projects around the world. Projects as big as eradicating polio worldwide, or as intimate and hands-on as ringing the bell for the Salvation Army in town. Many of the Midlands key leaders are part of this club, and that's why you and your talents have been recognized, and we want to welcome you to the club and to invite you to use those talents and skills in the club to be involved on committees. On your road to this moment, you've probably learned a lot about Columbia Rotary from your sponsors, from past presidents' talk, from even your meetings here. And I think as soon as you pay your dues and come to a fireside chat, you'll be officially part of one of the greatest organizations with which you'll ever be associated. Welcome to Columbia Rotary.
we've got another special presentation today. We've got Perry Orth, our very own Rotarian, fellow club member, and former quarterback for the Carolina Gamecocks, here to give us a little update, preseason update on football. So it's game week. Welcome, Perry.
All right, this should be good. First off, I appreciate you letting me come in and share today. My name is Perry Orth, for you guys that don't know me. I work now at Insurance Management Group over on Forest Acres as a commercial insurance advisor, and like President Stevens said, I used to be the quarterback for South Carolina, and I'm going to give you guys a little breakdown of the best time of the year, right? Came into work today, had a great attitude because Saturday starts college football season. And I know many of us in here are either Carolina or Clemson fans, and I was thinking today I didn't want to bore everybody with only Carolina football news, and so I thought I'd add in Clemson, even though it's going to pay me to do that. So rightfully so, I'm going to start out with my Gamecocks. So obviously now Coach Muschamp in his third year. I went to practice about 3 weeks ago, and the guys are looking good. They look different. The guys look bigger, they look faster, everyone's older, and for all you Carolina fans out there, can I just see a show of hands of the Carolina fans out there? So majority Carolina fans. All right, so there are a few players. I'm going to go down the offensive side of the ball, and then we'll go to defense, and then we're going to go to games to watch, and then we're going to do the same thing for Clemson, because what's neat that I learned about this rivalry is that you love watching Carolina football, but your second favorite game is to watch Clemson play, hoping that they might lose, and the same goes for Clemson people. And the first player for South Carolina I want all you guys to keep an eye on is, as you guys may well know, Deebo Samuel. Right now he plays wide receiver. He's going to be doing kick returns this year, but he's one of the most explosive players in college football right now. Kirk Herbstreit, who's the ESPN face of college football, had him as one of the top 5 most explosive, most exciting players to watch this season. He's number 1. I want you guys to keep an eye out for him. And then the guy who's going to be getting him the ball, number 19, Jake Bentley. He's now in his junior year. Jake is a good friend of mine. He was a freshman when I was getting ready to graduate, and expecting big things from him. You know, he's coming on his 20th start. So things are looking good offensively. We got a new offensive coordinator, as you well know, Brian McClendon, and hired, drawing a blank on his name, new quarterback coach from Ole Miss, who's going to help him out. Some of you fans out there may know him right now. But and then defensively, you know that a Will Muschamp coach team is going to play good defenses. What they're going to do. I want you guys to watch out for number 8, DJ Wanham was a defensive end. He led our team in tackles for loss and sacks last year as a sophomore, and expecting big things from him. So I know that we're all excited for Gamecock football. It's right around the corner, and I'm expecting a win Saturday, but come week 2, leading into some of the games I want you guys to look forward to this season that I felt like were good highlight games that can really turn the course of and shape our season. Is the first one's week 2, and I don't even think I have to remind you guys of who we're playing. We're playing Georgia at home, 3:30 CBS. Both teams are going to be ranked. There's a chance of College game day being here. The atmosphere is going to be electric, and we're hoping for another outcome like we saw in 2012, where we mopped the floor with them here. So we need to kind of get that going, and we'll see. But I think there's exciting times for the South Carolina Gamecock Nation right now, after kind of the turmoil that we went through when Coach Spurrier kind of left in the middle of the year. But we're definitely on the rise. I got good things going on. One thing that I don't think is being highlighted enough by the media is what Marcus Lattimore is doing for the program. I don't know if you guys really understand what he's doing, but he's bridging a gap between football, what it's like to be a collegiate athlete, to what it's going to be like as a young professional. And it's something that goes really underestimated, especially having gone through it. You go through a weird phase of, okay, well, how am I going to balance working out and then also not having something that I've done my entire life, and this is what I know, this is the only thing I know how to do really well, and then it just completely, you're done. And so balancing that transition is something Marcus is doing really really well with right now, and hats off to him and the staff for bringing him on. Now, unfortunately, we'll turn our attention to Clemson. I have a good friend of mine who's really close to the program up there, and apparently Dabo Swinney is saying that this may be the best team he's ever had, which is not good news. Right now they're kind of in an interesting situation quarterback-wise. So they have the kid who played last year, Kelly Bryant, had a really, really good season, went all the way through, they lost to Alabama in the playoff game, and people say, oh, he's not capable, blah, blah, blah. But, they really were honestly on cruise control throughout the course of the season, and the one game they lost, he actually didn't even play the second half. So it's going to be interesting to see how they balance that along with the new 5-star quarterback they had. His name's Trevor Lawrence. Big, tall guys, can make basically any NFL throw already at 18 years old. And they're expecting him to be very similar to Deshaun Watson, which gives a lot of us Carolina fans nightmares. Another receiver, they got 2 receivers. Hunter Renfrow, he's now a senior, and then T. Higgins is a sophomore. He's number 8. He's a big, tall, lanky receiver. Go up and get the football, and is somebody that is going to put a lot of defensive coordinators, give them hard nights of sleep. And then Travis Etienne is their running back, and Kirk Herbstreit also had him as one of the top 5 most explosive players in college football. So to watch them progress this season is going to be interesting. I know that I'll be watching them a lot, and most of you guys will be as well. And then last but not least, I think what's going not under the radar at all, actually, they've highlighted pretty well is their defense, Clemson's defense. For you Tigers out there in the crowd, how many Clemson people do we have in the crowd today? So you guys know all well about the defense that's coming back. You have 4 potential first-round picks on the defensive line, and not to bore you guys with football X's and O's, but that really kind of shapes your team. When you have a defensive line that's able to literally take away the run game without having to put any pressure on the quarterback or the run game, and makes the defense be able to drop 7-8 in coverage and still get pressure with your 3 or 4 down. That's pretty special, and that's what Clemson's looking at right now. You have guys of Cleveland Farrell, Dexter Lawrence, Christian Wilkins, and Austin Bryant. I mean, those are 4 guys that are going to play for a long time on Sundays. And they've got it going on right now. They've opened up their new operations facility, and that's attracting a crowd. We did just now. We'll do the same. I think ours is opening up in September. And I was actually in here, Seawells, on Wednesday, listening to Coach Muschamp talk at the Columbia Touchdown Club, and he was saying that that actual structure of it is going to change the landscape of recruiting, because anytime you're an 18-year-old kid, you can come into your locker room and there's a DJ booth that is going to be in there. There's a place where you can do putt-putt or play basketball or watch movies or take nap. Or it's just, you guys wouldn't believe the stuff that's going into these facilities now, and that's why you're starting to see a turn for both Carolina and Clemson football. Obviously Clemson's been there, but Carolina's starting to turn for the right in having top 5, top 10 recruiting classes, because our facilities both here and at Clemson are they're top of the line. And I think that's something, hats off to the people of the state, the supporters, the kind of the fans that we have here. Is something I noticed, excuse me, being from Florida. I grew up a Florida State fan, and the football's huge there, but the fans, it's just different, and I don't even know how to explain it. I knew that it was different when I was talking to Carolina fans about Clemson, how they felt, and it was a hate. It was just a good old-fashioned hate for the other school, but there was also a really good respect about it too. So I think you can, all of you that are from South Carolina, tip your caps to one another and appreciate the good football and the good athletics that are played here. But that being said, I appreciate you guys having me and letting me share about some upcoming football. And that being said, go Cox.
Thank you, Perry. We appreciate the time and energy you put into preparing that for us, and it's great to have you in our club and be able to draw on your expertise and knowledge from time to time. A couple of club announcements before we get into our speaker. We will not be meeting on Monday, that is Labor Day, but we will be having our club social next week, which is on Wednesday, September the 5th at 5:30 at Terra. Terra, for those of you who don't know, is just across the Gervais Street Bridge. I don't want to scare anybody away by saying it's in West Columbia, but it is in West Columbia, just across the Gervais Street Bridge. And an e-bike is going to be going out this week. And I asked that you would take the time to respond just to let us know. The folks at Terra need to know how many hors d'oeuvres and drinks and bartenders, et cetera, to prepare for. Randolph Shives and Shives Funeral Home is sponsoring this for our club. So if you see Randolph, please tell him thank you for his generosity. And I look forward to seeing everybody a week from Wednesday. Our board met last week, and just one quick update from that. Bob Lane has resigned his membership from the club. So just more reason I'm glad to have Beth and David join the club today. It's always good to balance those numbers out. And our food packing project scheduled for September the 22nd. The sign-up sheet is to my right, your left. We've got 25 people's names on there. We need about 45. So I'm going to ask that you give that some thought, being here from 8:30 to 10:30 on Saturday, September 22nd. Carolina football is away. Clemson football is away. No excuses. Please, let's volunteer. And with that, I'm going to ask Dot Ryle to come up and introduce our speaker.
Wait a minute. Hi there. I am honored to be able to introduce the speaker today. And so many of you have said, oh, I love TED Talks. I've heard it on the radio forever. How do you know somebody from TED Talks in New York? Well, I wanted to bring you up to date on that and how and why all this program came about today. First of all, I'll tell you, as I told you earlier, Judy Smith and I are real good friends, and we travel together. And one thing Judy has said to me is, Doc, over our 30-year friendship, 35, whatever, we're so young, I have admired you for many, many things. But I've added 2 things to that list. The first one is you'll call 911. I won't go into that story. But she said you also pick up people. That's how I know Elizabeth Trulock. Elizabeth was at a hamburger joint, and I went in with a bunch of guys, artists, to have a hamburger. And I think we were the only 2 females in the place. So I had to go over and meet her, and so now we're friends, and I'm happy she's with us today. But a few months ago, Judy and I had gone to New York, and we were on our flight back, and we were flying into Myrtle Beach. Judy had picked up a deadly cold, and so on the way there, she wore a face mask to be sure she didn't get germs. And of course, by the time we got to New York, she was sick as a dog. And so coming back, she's sitting in the middle, I'm on the aisle, and this young woman is by the window. And Judy is hunkered down with the face mask over her face. So I'm carrying on a conversation with Alyssa. And it grew into our being here today. And it has been a lovely trip for me, getting to know her family. I met her brother, her mother, and her father. And they're a lovely family, and between Kansas City and Myrtle Beach, well, not Myrtle Beach, but Litchfield, they are commuting back and forth, so they now belong to us too. I think of Rotary and how we are an informative, current, up-to-date club. And in having TED Talks today as our podium subject, I asked Wes Hickman if he would come and make a short announcement that will let you know how current our Columbia Rotary Club truly is. Walk fast.
I don't do anything fast. But, so October the 9th, we are hosting TED Talks at the University of South Carolina. It's TEDx, U of SC. TEDx is a division of the TED Conference company. Maybe we'll get into that a little bit later today. But I was going to come here and pitch to you the opportunity to buy tickets. They went on sale last Wednesday. They sold out in 5 hours. So unfortunately, we don't have tickets still available. Hopefully some folks in the room got them. You can get on the wait list though. If you go to our website, sc.edu, and do a search for TEDx, it'll take you straight to the page. Call in or email us and we can get you on the wait list. We have 12 amazing speakers. 11 of them are affiliated with the university. 1 is a community member. We have a current student, we have faculty, we have alums. Everybody is doing great work in the community. It's exciting stuff to hear, so we'll have really great content coming out of it. But Hope some of you were able to make it. If you have questions, shoot me.
Thanks, Wes. Oh, I do such good work. Now, let's meet our speaker. Alyssa is a young woman who grew up in Kansas City, Missouri. Family of 4. She went through school there and then went to the University of Denver. At the University of Denver, she was captain of the volleyball team, Division I, and was very active on that campus. It's interesting to me because we are a service club. And as I've gotten to know Alyssa, she is service-oriented. You will see that in her career. Everything she has done has been in the not-for-profit world. So she is serving humankind in our country. A young woman who's a good example and fun to watch grow because she's so young and her career is just really getting off the ground. That it's going to be fun for us to, in years, if we're still around, that we look and see where she has grown and where she's gone. Alyssa, after college, went with Teach America. And Teach America is very much like the Peace Corps, in that you sign a contract and you go and work as a not-for-profit, but you do our salary, thank goodness. And you teach, she taught, chose to teach, and she taught 8th grade math and business economics. And she did that, honored her 2-year contract out in California in impoverished, underprivileged schools. And that was a real eye-opener for her. And she chose to stay on and teach another year. From that, she became familiar with the Pearson's Association, which is the largest company in the world that deals in technical materials for education. And she was sent as a consultant to the United Kingdom to work in the universities there with online teaching. Susan Elkins is on her way from Sumter, hoping she'll get here, who is chancellor of our online college at Palmetto at the University of South Carolina, because she was anxious to meet Alyssa. So from that, Alyssa then came to TED Talks. And she's a dynamo. And for us to be able to invite her to come and for TED Talks in New York to send her, fly her in for our club is a real honor for us. And to know that she can go back and say, well, the University of South Carolina is having us in October. So without any further conversation on this, I want you all to give a warm Rotary welcome to Alyssa Hammond.
Thank you. It is wonderful to see the faces behind 1.2 million members and over 100 years of service tackling the world's biggest challenges locally and globally. Thank you, Louisa, Dot, Cynthia, for all of your help getting me up here today. It's been a pleasure to join you all. And it's the one time I've been thankful to Spirit Airlines random seating to put me next to Dot a couple months ago. That sort of energy that I feel from you all is something I felt when I was sitting next to Dot. And to bond over community service comes so naturally. You have lots of things to talk about. And your ears should have been burning because she definitely was talking about the caliber of the members of the Columbia Rotary Club and all the projects that you all do. I remember sharing with her that I started out as a volunteer for TEDx London, where TEDx is the program and London was the city where the event was happening. And I thought, what's behind this TED Talks? You know, when I was a teacher in my classroom, I used them because they were more captivating than I was as a teacher, so kind of kept the students preoccupied for 18 minutes. And then I listened to them, and then I saw that TEDx was happening in London. And being volunteer-oriented, I rolled up my sleeves and had signs directing people from the subway stations to the event, and thought, wow, this is accessible, it's innovative, and it's something that is really making an impact on thousands and thousands of people. How does this organization work? So I read a little bit more about it, and I I read a little bit more about it, and I applied for a full-time staff position back in New York. And I am really family-oriented too, so there was a little bit of me that wanted to make sure I was going to come back to the United States sooner than later. But it really feels like a blessing that I got that job, moved back to New York just a little over a year ago, and now it gets to be my full-time job to go and work with organizations, businesses, and individuals who really support the mission of TEDx. And so I'd like to speak with you all a little bit about that today. And when I was thinking about how the Rotary works, it's awfully similar to TED. So you have TED, which is the conference company, and we have about 4 big conferences a year that our curators find speakers for. Our AV production team lays down the red dot on the stage and has everybody come through, and we go through the application of people that are interested in attending. And we do that about 4 times a year. But as the conference grew, starting in the 1980s, people were saying, well, bring TED Talks to Singapore, and bring TED Talks to Buenos Aires, and bring TED Talks to Sydney. And as a really small nonprofit organization, we couldn't do that. Just as the Rotary empowers Columbia, South Carolina, to have all of you guys together in this room, that's exactly what TED did. So when it was the year of 2009, we said, you do it. You know, you guys are our fans. You have the right spirit about why you want to bring TED to University of South Carolina. You do it. So you applied for a free brand license, and hence TEDx was born. So with a free brand license granted by TED, hardworking volunteers such as Wes and 3,000 other licensees, what they do is they apply for a license to host a TEDx event, where the X stands for Independently Organized Event. It's just a moniker so that way you can distinguish what are the nonprofit of TED, people that live and work in New York City, what are the conferences that they're putting on, and then if it's a TEDx, and then a lengthy location name, University of South Carolina, you guys are smart to say U of SC, it gets awfully long on the stage, then you know that it's on the behalf of local citizens who are working outside of their day jobs to bring TEDx to your community. So they're the ones finding the speakers. And it's incredible all that they do, right? So what this has enabled TEDx to do is to reach cities such as Buenos Aires, featured here, TEDx Rio de la Plata, which is in front of 10,000 people, or events that are much smaller, taking place in schools or retirement homes. And in so doing, TEDx events are happening on average 10 times every day. So TEDx U of SC is happening on October 9th, but over 4,000 events take place every year. There's our average of 10 a day. And what that means is that TEDx is really multiplying TED's mission of ideas worth spreading. TED, which stands for Technology, Entertainment, and Design, and having ideas of those, we've grown past that. We're not just talking about those 3 topics anymore as the years have gone on. But what's beautiful is that we aren't just talking on 4 different conferences a year. Thanks to TEDx, we're happening 4,000 times a year. But the real magic is what's going to take place in that event. It's that you meet new neighbors and you have different conversations because you're interested in what the speakers have just shared with you. It's something uplifting, enlightening. It's multidisciplinary. It's a little bit like this Rotary Club, where you laugh a little bit at a joke, you have some patriotism, there's some sense of inspiration, there's a little bit of a game update. It runs the gamut in terms of what you'll be exposed to by attending a TEDx event. And so I'd like to take you on a tour. I can't cover all 3,000 events that take place in a year's, 4,000 events that take place in a year's time. But let's just hit the continents. So in Antarctica, there's TEDx Antarctic Peninsula. Moving over to Oceania, you have TEDx Sydney in Australia. Over in Asia, this is a picture of TEDx Ubud in Indonesia. Over in the Middle East, TEDx Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. Coming into you from Europe, this is TEDx Trento in Italy. Down we go to Africa, where we have TEDx Abidjan in Cote d'Ivoire. Moving over to South America, here's TEDx Sao Paulo in Brazil. And rounding out our continents to yours truly, North America, here's TEDx Toronto in Canada. TEDx as a community is continuing to flourish. Our global footprint is rapidly increasing, and that's how we are having ideas spoken on TEDx stages in over 103 languages. There are events in 170 countries, and that is all thanks to the hard work of 2,900 organizers. And an organizer is somebody that actually applies for the license, but they don't do it on his or her own. They are surrounded by a team that they recruit as volunteers. So it's much, much larger than that. And thanks to those organizers, they're hosting 3,800 events. And during those events, you have speakers that number in 22,000, and they're reaching audiences of 600,000. And all of these numbers are just in 2017 alone. But the good news is that the event, if you can't go on October 9th, you can still watch the speeches. They're posted on our TEDx YouTube channel, and that's where our reach is even broader. So because of our TEDx YouTube channel, where all of the talks are posted, we have over 1 billion views. And that's somebody that goes on, searches, clicks, watches, or you can subscribe to our channel, and then you're made known that there are new talks being posted, where we have 10 million subscribers. And that was an 82% growth year on year. So the math teacher in me got really excited, because then the X didn't just mean independently organized event, it meant exponential growth that we were having in terms of the reach. All in all, 1/3 of TED's website traffic is driven by TEDx content. And so TED really sees TEDx as a huge part of its mission, and I'm excited to talk with you about it today. TEDx is made possible by 20 staff members that sit, well, amongst myself, they're my teammates. We're in a small office in New York City, and I just want to share a couple of the things that our team does that assists the TEDx organizer. So if you wanted to organize a TEDx event, you would apply online, written application, and explain why you want to bring TEDx to Columbia. What are your ideas? What's the theme? Where might it be? When might it be? We want to make sure that TEDx events are complementing one another instead of being in competition to one another. And we also want to make sure that the people who are organizing it are doing it for the right intentions, that they're going to find speakers that have great ideas rather than just trying to promote themselves. For every one licensing team member we have about 1,000 applications. So it's a high volume for our small team to handle, but they're really making sure that the strength of the brand holds. And then once you're a part of the community, you're helping through our community team with rules and tools, lots of best practices, getting started guides, online forums where you're able to talk to other TEDx organizers, because the best learnings comes from each other. After you've had the event, our media team is watching as many talks as they know the languages to. So we recruit people that are multilingual so that we're able to watch talks in not just English language, so we were able to find the best ideas throughout the community. Also flag the bad ones, the one of pseudoscience, the ones that are self-promoting, the ones that have inappropriate content and need to be flagged back to the organizer, but more often finding the great ones and amplifying those. And then our licensing team looks at the photos and looks at a survey in order to check for quality control. And sometimes that leads to hard conversations, but more often than not, it leads to them celebrating the innovative things that TEDx events are doing worldwide. And then of course, the 50,000 local TEDx volunteers around the world who apply for that license. After that license is granted, they have a year to host the event. And in that 1 year's time, they have a lot of work to do. They need to find great ideas within the community, engage those people to see if they'd be willing to speak on the TEDx stage, train them on how to give a talk that's compelling and short, And then also, think about the entire attendee experience. How are people going to get to know one another? How can we break the ice? Where can we create opportunities for them to build relationships? They also need to find partners, because events aren't free. So they're looking for cash partners and in-kind partners, as well as trying to promote their tickets. They may be free or they may be charged. It's up to the organizer. And last but not least, on the day of the event, they're photographing everything and actually video recording the talk so that they can be posted up on YouTube so they can promote them after the fact. All in all, it's a lot of leadership, creativity, and execution because they're doing it with an entire volunteer team. And it takes the form of many events. They might happen at a university, at a city, inside a library. It might be a smaller event such as a salon. It may be a TV screening of TED conferences and what's happening on our main stage, more of a simulcast. It could be for 10 people, it could be for 10,000 people, but they average 150. And it could be something shorter, like half a day, or some events are even 2 full days. And they aren't just you guys sitting there and one person talking. They also have activities, they have discussions, they do service projects. But one thing that's really important is that they follow certain rules for compliance to ensure quality. So you know what you're signing up for, then that brand is trusted. And what we know is that they're leaving their audience in awe. So what TEDx does as a quality measure is they ask the audience, right? It doesn't matter what we up in New York have to say about it. What did you guys feel in the room? So one question survey goes out, super simple. On a scale of 1 to 10, would you recommend this event to somebody you know? And what's incredible is that 75% rate it a 9 or a 10, right? That's even higher than our TED conference in Vancouver in April that people apply for. Right? So it's incredible for us to know that the local organizers know their community so well that they're finding the right speakers, thinking of the right theme, and bringing the right people together in a room that they want to go next year. And we're really, really proud of that. Many events are larger than TED. This photograph is of TEDx Sydney. It was so large in the Sydney Opera House that they had to expand and go to the International Convention Center. Some are a lot smaller. What you're seeing here is TEDx SKE in Lebanon, where one woman was watching a video. She said, "What's TED?" Googled it, was intrigued, kept watching talks, told her husband about it, and he said, "This is a really helpful, non-political platform where we can get our friends together and just talk about inventions." And so every week, they have a TEDx salon license, they get 20 to 25 people together, and they watch TED Talks in their living room, and that's beautiful. Right? They may be big, they may be small, they may be poetic. This event took place on the US-Mexican border, where the whole theme was about how ideas can't be fenced in. Organizers in Tijuana and San Diego worked together for 2.5 years to overcome mayoral objections and technical constraints, and are ending up putting on this beautiful event. They may be catalytic. Here you see TEDx Bangalore in India. One of their talks was about why is the public okay having filthy spaces when it's actually dangerous. So the team got together, they galvanized, and here they are painting 6 underpasses in an impoverished area in India, now making them safe for pedestrian travel. Or something that's very profound. What you're seeing here is TEDx Luzira Prison. It's in Uganda. And the warden said after community members and inmates worked together to put on this event as attendees and speakers, he saw that prisoners were taking responsibility for their crimes and also seeing opportunities to improve with the types of programming that the prison was offering. When TED sees these sorts of events, we know that we're seeing the future of TED. It's passion that led us here, and as TEDx turns 10 in 2019, we're really thinking about the areas where we need to invest to make TEDx bigger and better in the years to come. And there are 3 particular areas where TED is placing investment and where we need partners to do so, and that's where my job comes in. So thinking about events. Events are times when we bring TEDx organizers together. It's one thing to have online forums to learn with each other, but it's even better if they can be in person. And so what you're seeing here is a picture of 500 TEDx organizers in the shape of an X underneath the Brooklyn Bridge, because we brought them to Brooklyn this April. And this is a chance for them to learn with one another. We want to do more of these regional and global gatherings. We were able to do that this year thanks to the help of many sponsors. I'm highlighting our largest sponsors. And one thing that we are able to do is an organization sees our events as an opportunity to boost their brand awareness as well as launch a product or service. And so that's something that we did with these. A second thing is our media. Right? We want as many people out there to hear some of the great ideas and not just have them live on our TEDx YouTube channel. So what we're doing is having organizations potentially see this as a way to find great ideas and reach their target market. That's something that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation did with us this last year, where we made 6 videos of TEDx talks about global health. Those were very successful for their campaign and for us. And then the third area are our initiatives, ways that we can bring people that couldn't afford to come to a TED conference otherwise. And that's something that the School Foundation really helped us do. So that way we make sure that people are able to take TEDx to communities that we haven't reached before. 2 other things that I'll mention is our TEDx business initiative, which enables businesses to have their own TEDx event. And they support our nonprofit platform by paying a fee. But what we've noticed, as a quote from a TEDx PNG Singapore organizer said, it was night and day. The ease, the energy, and the excitement of organizing a regular staff retreat versus a TEDx PNG Singapore retreat. And we're really excited that organizations are seeing it as an opportunity to engage staff collaboration. In fact, Johnson & Johnson, the one focused here, have even taken a product to market because an idea that wasn't getting much traction in a team meeting really got everybody excited at a TEDx event. And then our TEDx Council of members who are globally oriented and give financial resources, their know-how and connections through 2 annual meetings. And then we also put together special experiences for them at our TED events year-round. And of course, attend, volunteer, or even organize. And you're absolutely right, Wes. TEDx U of SC on October 9th, already sold out, would have made the plug otherwise. But more than anything, there are lots of ways to get involved, whether it's yourself, or a person you know, your organization, or an organization you know. It's an honor. My team and these organizers knock my socks off every day, and so for me to get to come and see if I can get a few more champions on board is a treat. So if you're keen, or if you know anybody who is, my email's on the board and I'd love to answer questions.
Alyssa, thank you so much for being here today. Sorry we ran a little bit over, but if you have a couple minutes afterwards and can stand at the end of the table, I'm sure some folks would like to come up and ask questions. President-elect Louisa, I know we're not meeting on the 5th, but who do we have?
September 10th is our next meeting. Thank you. September 10th is our next meeting, and we will have Joe Long, who's the curator of the Confederate Relic Room and Military Museum. He's going to tell us the real story behind why the Nazis were so interested in Captain Von Trapp. So bring a guest.
Thank you very much. We'll stand in closing song.